Remember that time I told you that we're getting screwed over by YouTube, losing three-fourths of our income and probably won't be able to continue this operation? Yeah, we had to get a sponsor. And what better time than now than to scare the crap out of you with the warnings of World War III and then sell you some gold? It seems like a very smart business decision, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not I'm not joking. Like, literally, this is what I'm going to do. But I want to do it in a fair way, where this video still provides you context and information which lets you understand what's really happening around this world, bring in an expert when it comes to gold, and give you a win-win situation, because this is something I personally not only believe in, but invest in myself. And after researching this, I believe gold has a specific impact in the foreign policy decisions that we are seeing unfolding right now all around the world. Within the last few years, we have seen Russia and both China buying up as much gold as they possibly can. We saw China base their currency, the yuan, based on gold and not the US dollar. And now, just a few days ago, on April 2nd, 2017, Russia and China announced that they were joining forces to bypass the US dollar in global markets, shifting to gold trade. Now, this move was announced just a few days before Donald Trump decided to send Tomahawk missiles against the secular government of Syria, which both Russia and China support. Now, China and Russia have been preparing for this move, buying a lot of gold within the last few years, making the possibility of this economic strike against the US dollar, the US petrodollar, the US dollar being used as the world reserve currency, a very formidable threat. And when you look at American foreign policy throughout the last few decades, it is centered around keeping the US dollar as the world reserve currency. And now China and Russia threaten that, which could explain the aggressive actions that Donald Trump has been taking against these two countries. Now, for more information on that, plus a lot more, we have Charles Torgren of the NobleGoldInvestments.com company. And Charles, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show and being a sponsor of Real Independent Media. But most importantly, can you explain to us what is China and Russia doing?
Yes, and I'd love to, and thanks for having me. I think, it's real important for those of us who remember when the United States was in the Cold War against Russia, and we theoretically won that war. That wasn't a war that we won through weapons. That was an economic war that we won. And Russia learned a lot from that. That's how we beat them the last time. We were able to outspend them.
And we financially bankrupted them, especially with the space programs, and then they didn't have enough money left, and then they went down and bankrupt, and then the United States declared victory. Great point.
Yeah, so, and Russia, they don't forget. The world has always been a scenario where you have two key powers. Anytime that you have one power alone, things get a little rough. So whenever there's that balance of two superpowers, things work out better for the world as a whole. Just something to keep people in check. And they haven't forgotten that. And this is why we see them doing exactly to us what we did to them. And that's troubling in many, many degrees, because now it's not just Russia by themselves. They have China involved as well. And that's where you see them accumulating all of this gold, all the gold reserves. And it's important for them. Not because they love gold. They love what it does for them. It gives them the ability to remove the dollar from the hegemony of the world. It won't be the world's reserve currency anymore. And that's a pretty important thing. We've accomplished a lot of what we've done in the United States because of that power that we had with currency. And to lose that, we now put ourselves in a scenario where countries don't really have to bow to our will anymore, unless it's a military will. And that raises a whole other gamut of problems. So you see here is an attempt by the current administration to try to gain some control back, because we know with the IMF meeting coming up at the end of April, things have a real possibility to change. When you look at what the IMF is accomplishing and what Vladimir Putin said at the last G20 meeting, that they are purposely going to try to get to the 15% bracket of the currency bracket of the IMF so that they can stop the United States' power with that reserve currency. The whole plan is to stop that currency being the hegemony. When you remove that from the scenario, we don't have the power that we once had. So it's very important for them to do that. And that's why they're working together.
Yeah, we've seen China and Russia kind of come together recently by sharing technological advancements, by coming together economically and also militarily, joining in this kind of allegiance. And they've been making smaller moves against the US dollar a few years ago when Barack Obama was in office. But clearly, the latest events that we're seeing right now unfold are very significant and very important. And it's important to also know it's not just China and Russia that are involved in this. If you look at countries like Iraq, when they dropped the US dollar for euros, they profited, but they also became a target of the U.S. war machine. We saw the same thing with Gaddafi in Libya when he said he was not going to use the U.S. dollar anymore in the world markets, but create a gold-backed dinar currency for the African Union. That's when he became a target. Syria as well made significant moves against the U.S. dollar. Barack Obama financed the rebel groups, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, in order to overthrow him. That failed, and now Donald Trump is continuing that policy. Iran as well, dumping the U.S. dollar, now the chief enemy of the United States. And the United States, they come out on the world stage and they're like, we care about human life. We're doing this for humanitarian purposes. No. This is purely economic warfare that we're seeing unfolded. Soft, war, battling between these world powers for kind of world control and U.S. dollar world hegemony. Do you see it that same way, Charles?
I do. You, as a nation, you have to defend your currency. It's a must. And a lot of bad things happen because of it. There's two ways you can do it. You can do the right thing, spend your money correctly, have a budget that makes sense, create a GDP that gives you power, or you can go the other way. And you can do the things that have been getting done, making enemies, bombings, and things like that. It's, as they say, follow the money. So many times it's about the money. And this case is no different. And it's about keeping power with currency. And that's why you see the events happening and unfolding the way they do. We're losing that power.
Yeah, I don't really understand how Donald Trump could do an airstrike in Mosul, killing 300, civilians that were not the designated targets of that airstrike, and then come on a national stage and says, we can't let the brutality of children and their deaths be allowed. It's not about human life. I mean, the United States, no one believes the mainstream media. No one believes John McCain. They literally have a 7-year-old running a Twitter account that they're using to push their neoconservative talking points. So there's a lot more that we're not seeing here that people need to fully understand. And Charles, you've been on top of it. You've been studying this for a very long time. Why is gold such an important quality? Why is China and Russia buying so much gold up like they have been within the last few years?
Great question. And it really comes down to a very simple answer. Gold has always been of value. Governments come, governments go. Countries come, countries go. World powers come, they leave. That all changes. That's one thing we know from history is your power will leave. You may be the lead power of the world. You may be the lead currency of the world. But all of that has a time frame. There's a time when it ends. Happened to Britain, happened to the Romans, happened to Russians. It happens to every country that gets that seat. What doesn't change is gold. Gold has been of value for 5,000 years.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because gold prices have gone up ever since Donald Trump started launching those Tomahawk missiles inside of Syria. But specifically with gold, we've seen an increase in price. Is it mainly just surrounding the unstableness of the world right now?
That is a part of it, but in my opinion, that's a very small part of it. I think this more has to do with the bigger picture. People know who have inside information, who follow the trends, who are watching the IMF and seeing what Russia and China are doing. They understand that the dollar is in trouble. And this is a perfect opportunity to jump on board. You have scenarios where large corporations and countries buy gold on a regular basis. When something scary happens, when there's talk of war again and there's saber rattling and there's actual bombs that are dropped, you'll always see that spike. But more important is what happened after the airstrike stopped. Gold is still sitting here, over $1,250 an ounce. And that's a very telling thing. That means that the interest isn't gone away. It wasn't just an initial knee-jerk reaction. There is a very consolidated effort to accumulate precious metals, gold and silver. And that is because of what is happening. Those who know realize that the dollar's days are very limited for many reasons, but the external forces on it are as strong as they've ever been. You have the point here where you will see, and China is very tricky about a lot of things. The way that they value their currency, the yuan. No one really knows how it's done. We have guesstimates of how they're going to value, when they're going to decrease the value, when they're going to, let it flow with the market. But more importantly is the accumulation of metals that China's been going through. And granted, they're only ranked as the top 5th country in gold holdings from what they've announced. But they're also the largest miner of precious metals in the world. And they don't release any of that gold to the market. So that number we know is off. We know they have a lot more than they say. And this has all gone about in a way to build up the criteria so that they can remove the dollar from the hegemony and create a true basket with the IMF. The IMF is just as involved as Russia and China, as well as India, and South Africa as well. Those countries are in there too. The BRIC nations very much want to see a removal of the dollar's power, because in effect, it takes us out of their politics as well. We're involved now because of the economic power that we have. So unless we're truly willing to fight the world, we're going to lose the power that we've been able to yield for the last 20 years. That's going to disappear.
Now, of course, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of things that we don't know, but we could see China making this move to have more of an economic impact when they do have that economic trade war that many people are saying that is going to happen between China and the United States. But I wanted to get your kind of personal expertise on this, since you've been writing about this for a very long time, also on your newsletter. Where do you see everything going? How will this unfold in the next few months?
The next few months, and it's hard to say this is going to happen at this time. I don't have the ability to do that. But we do know is that China's GDP is now larger than the United States. They make more products than we do. And you have to produce things to be able to have an effective GDP. We don't do that here. And that was part of President Trump's political campaign, bring jobs back, because that's how you fight part of that. So what's going to happen over the next few months is you're going to see China's making this play because, well, they do produce all the products and people buy them from around the world. We need China for that. All the countries in the world buy products from them. So it makes sense. And it really was a very slow played, very tactical maneuver on their part to say, since you need my products, you should use my currency. By doing this, they're seizing power in an almost non-threatening way, because it's not with the military. And again, it goes back to using economic principles to gain control, because that's what people care about. People care about money.
Now, Charles, can you tell us about your company as well? I mean, I had my kind of journalist look into you and personally investigate you, and they came back and they're like, no, this guy's legit and this guy's good. So I definitely want to talk about some of the services you provide and the work you do as well, because I find it very important, especially in this critical time that we're in right now.
We help people diversify portfolios that they have in the stock market, in the IRAs, cash they may be holding, into precious metals. The process that we use, you can actually move funds from your IRA without taking a tax hit, without any consequences, and position it into a self-directed IRA and get precious metals, gold and silver specifically, in that account. You can protect yourself in that manner. And if you're looking at, the way the economy's been going, it hasn't been fantastic. I know the stock market will have you believe that has, close to all-time highs. But no one really feels that out there on Main Street. Wall Street says it's great, but Main Street doesn't say it's so good. And we're seeing a scenario where there should be some form of a correction in the stock market. We've gotten to these heights because of quantitative easing by the federal government. That has to stop. We can't afford that anymore. And we put ourselves in a very unique position because interest rates are so low that the Fed doesn't have the means to fight off another recession. And it feels like that's where we're going. We'll see that with your retail numbers. How many retail stores are shutting down? It's amazing. There's a lot of things happening. The jobs number that just came out wasn't very good. It was very disappointing, in fact. Now, you take that and the fact that we're going to see a lot of layoffs in just the retail space, you will see another scenario of 2008 proportions or even 2000 proportions combined, where you have those two bubbles happen again. You could see a correction in the stock market, and what the metals will do for you is offset that correction that's happening. It'll give you the ability to protect your nest egg, protect your wealth from that form of a correction. And again, time frame, hard to say. We do know that the stock market loves corrections at the end of summer, beginning of fall. Just historically, that's where you see a lot of it happen. So if I had to pick a time frame, I would say there, but it could be sooner. No one knows for sure.
And, it only makes sense because we're in a stock market that's a very bullish market, and there's no way that can continue and keep moving forward. And it's smart to be like, hey, we shouldn't all put our eggs in just one basket. You should at least put 15% of your income in other investments, whether it's Bitcoin or gold or silver, precious metals. It's wise to do that. And if you don't do that, you're not really being prepared for the future. And obviously, we've been hearing a lot of, sensational talk, but you don't even have to go too crazy with it. We've seen people also kind of manipulate and use the system as a way to benefit off people, but it only makes common sense to have a backup investment that is not just based on one frickin' currency. The more you diversify, the more you kind of break things up, the better chances you have of surviving the crap and the instability of what we're dealing with now. Now, Charles, your website is noblegoldinvestment.com. I'm going to leave you here with the last word. What else do you want to say about just your company, your work, and everything that we're seeing, just on all the madness we're seeing unfolding right in front of us?
Yeah, thank you. And I would say, I'm going to repeat something you just said. Remove the fear, okay? Being informed will make you afraid sometimes. The more you know, sometimes the worse you feel. But forget about the fear part of it. Common sense does dictate you don't put all your money in one place. Get yourself diversified. Get the security that true diversification offers your portfolio. And then you're going to be able to feel better when things do happen. Common sense says it will happen. It's a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. So get prepared. Give us a call. Talk to us, find out the in and outs. My team here is fantastic. They can help you with paperwork for your IRAs. They can show you some of the best assets to choose for your portfolio. And we do it in a way that's not threatening. It's not pushy. We're not here to capitalize on fear. We're here to remove the fear. By getting protected, you remove the fear from your investing and you feel better about it. So the best thing to do is give us a call and talk to us.
Charles, thank you so much again for your sponsorship, your expertise, and all the great information you provided here today.